So it's not a Pokemon video today, although I am rocking the Pokemon attire, you gotta do it. But I just want to say that recently I have really got into D&D. I mean, like, we do sessions on a Thursday, and on a Friday night I'll find myself sat in the pub by myself, writing up D&D notes with a pint in my hand. That's how into it I am. That sounds so sad now I'm saying it out loud. I actually got into D&D podcasts during the UK lockdowns, so I've actually been interested in D&D content for probably about 3 years now. The podcasts I listen to, Oxventure, Dungeons and Daddies, brackets not a BDSM podcast, genuinely that's their tagline, not another D&D podcast, and D&D is for nerds I listened to a lot when I was working in Cyprus in 2021. And since my friend and now Dungeon Master M invited me to play Dungeons and Dragons like 3 months ago with our friends, I've got into D&D YouTube content as well. XP to level 3, Ginny D, One Shot Questers, Bob World Builder, Pointy Hat, and I'm sure there's more. Much to my girlfriend's displeasure that I watch so much Dungeons and Dragons content on our TV. I'm sorry, Hannah. I'm sorry. And I found it's true what these content creators say. It's really, really fun to roll characters and just make character sheets for characters you're never gonna use. But you just do it to fill the time. It's a really easy way to pass the time and really addictive. So me and Hannah were on holiday in Greece a couple of weeks ago, and we were waiting for the plane back. We had a couple of hours to kill in the airport. She was reading a book. I was like, I'm gonna design a D&D character, but creating a fun and interesting backstory that suits those characters, that's a little more difficult and tedious. But what if we make it fun? What if we randomize our characters' backstories? This is the method I made up. Scroll down on my script. Step 1, write 6 titles. Likes, what they're fond of. Dislikes, what they're not fond of, obviously. Fears, what they will actively avoid. Hobbies, this could determine the class or race that they Class or race! Ah, my voice hurts. Hobbies, this could determine the class or race of your character. The next one, adjective. Literally could be anything, and you've got to weave it to describe your character somehow. And the last title, nature. Just what they're like as a person on the whole, essentially. Step 2, ask someone, anyone, even your girlfriend who doesn't understand D&D and is sitting on the floor of a Greek airport reading her book, ask that person for 4 words under each title, a generic hobby, a generic fear, random adjectives, and it might look like this. This is genuinely my notepad as I'm sat on the Greek airport floor. Third step, you roll a d4 and that's how you get your choices. These were mine. But Will, that doesn't sound like an interesting character. Well then, let's put a twist on all of these selections. Likes, pie. I love pie, so I'm pretty sure Hannah just put pie in there as a selection for me. That's a food, maybe they're a glutton who would like to gorge themselves at the tavern in their downtime. Dislikes, olives. Pretty sure that she chose that because we were in Greece. And we don't like olives. It just so happened I rolled this one. So it's another food option. So maybe they're a glutton, but they've got a picky personality. They like this, but they won't have this. They don't like this. No. They're a picky person, maybe. Fears? Needles. I know a load of people who don't like needles, but in D&D, maybe that will represent that they don't like weapon-based combat. They've never trained with a sword, because what is a sword but a big needle? Hobbies, I got reading. This could be a learned class or race, maybe a wizard. For example, if it had been rock climbing, which was an option on my notepad, if it had been rock climbing, maybe they would have been a strong, outgoing barbarian, or maybe like an earth genasi, but we got reading, and I'm thinking wizard. Wizard for reading. I don't know what this gesture is. Adjective, I got majestic. Maybe not majestic in like a mystical sense, but maybe like they're revered by people. They're majestic in the eyes of the people, not like a mystical being or something like that. Maybe we can do something with that. And nature, we got loyal. What I'm thinking with this is, what if because they're revered, they are loyal to the people who follow them. However, because he's picky, he loses interest in people when they're of no use to him anymore. That's maybe how we can make that loyalty a bit more interesting. He uses people. Now, how will these twists affect the character and how the gameplay in the actual campaign might be affected? So, they're a glutton. If the innkeeper were to say, sorry mate, the chicken's on the turn, it's got a couple of flies around it, we probably think it's probably best you don't eat that. He goes, just brush the flies off, it'll be fine. He eats anything, so maybe I put a lot of points into his constitution. He'll have a high constitution stat. Picky, we said he loses interest in people. Maybe that means he'll fend for himself. It's like, are these people worth it? No? Okay, I'm gonna dip. I don't need these people. Bye! Avoids weapons, meaning maybe not just that they don't like swords, they never trained with swords, but maybe they're just not an active person at all because they weren't training to fight. So I'll give a very low strength stat on their character sheet. They are a learned person, so they like to study, so I am going to go with Wizard, because from what I understand, and I'm still new to D&D, so I do apologise if it's wrong, Warlocks ask their patron for their skills and their magic. Sorcerers are just like generally blessed. Wizards actually have to study, so I think we're going to go with a wizard character for our learned selection. Revered. So many people look up to them, so I think we should give them a high charisma score when we make their character sheet. And then that'll link into loyal. Because those people look up to him, he'll have like advantage on persuasion checks with friendly NPCs, if the DM agrees to it, of course. DM has final ruling, but I think that'd be quite a cool one to go, hey, my character's a bit of an arsehole who will fend for himself, but damn do people love him, so can I have advantage on persuasion checks? Thanks. I would obviously market it better than that. I have a script and I'm not reading it. So with all of these notes in hand, this is the backstory I wrote for the character on the plane from Greece to London that afternoon. Vito, oh no, I just put tea over my laptop. Beans! Beans! Who else but Will would keep tea next to his laptop? I am a very clever person, I am a handsome person, and most importantly, I am a clean person who cleans up after themselves. Don't ask my girlfriend, she'll tell you that's a lie. It's a lie! Carefully picking up the tea, carefully picking up the backstory, and we're good to go. Vito Aquala was once part of a small nation, so small that he was the only magic user in the population. This meant, though small in stature as a halfling, he was looked up to by members of the community. However, it was when the drought came that Vito started to understand not only the powers he had, but the powers he held over the township. The ability to create fresh drinking water to help crops grow, to create berries and fruits and vegetables to help the vulnerable. People relied on him, and in return offered services and goods as offerings. Bartering became second nature. If people bought him something that he deemed unworthy of his services, he would wave them away as he gorged himself on the luxury foods and wines purchased with the silvers and coppers people scraped together in that trying time to make money to get him an offering. With respect for the halfling growing through the decade's drought, he soon found himself on the committee. But he no longer had the people's best interest at heart, for he knew he held the most power among the people and the board. But as the drought ended, and farmers, animal handlers, and apothecaries could tend to their own flora and fauna, they started to find no use for the wizard halfling, whose ego and stomach had sizably increased over those desolate years that they themselves were suffering through, whilst Vito gained and furthered his standing and his hoard of luxuries. So, when the committee voted to remove him, he bit back, boasting how he had saved them and served them with nothing but dignity and fairness. They very strongly disagreed, and he was removed from the office that very day. He stormed home, seething, thinking of ways he could prove himself until he realised he didn't have to prove himself. He had to show them he could give, but he could also take away. That night, Vito snuck into the fields of grain that had been bountiful that year for the first time in ages, waved his hands, and set it alight. Local farmers, guards, and the committee members saw the dancing of the flames and embers and rushed to the scene to find Vito upon the bales of hay outside the grain's paddock, and declared, "You need me. If this town wants to thrive, then you need me." As the destructive licks of fire eviscerated the crops that they had struggled so hard for, the committee drew their rapiers, the guards prepared their longswords, and the farmers readied their pitchforks, and it was now that Vito realised, through the years he sat upon his chair casting judgment on others' needs, they were in the fields, they were catching wild boar, they were training to protect the community. He did nothing but gorge himself, avoided manual labour, and had not trained to protect what little the town had left. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and out of luck. He fled, never to return again, to seek out a new group that could see and appreciate his talents and his merits. And that is the backstory of Vito Aquila. And I have just realised I did not write an outro to this video. So here we go. That backstory was written with 6 words, which were: he likes pie, dislikes olives, fears needles, his hobby is reading, an adjunct to describe him is majestic, and his nature is loyal. Give all those words a twist, and that's what we can come up with. But yeah, no, I'm very, very happy that turned out. Considering I'm a new D&D player, I quite liked the randomize... not a word. I love randomizers in Pokemon. It was very, very cool to randomize a D&D character and having to think on the fly how I can make this all work. Give it a try yourself. Let me know if it works. I appreciate you stopping by, even if it was just for a minute or for the whole video. Thank you very much. Look after yourselves. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and keep on rolling. I've never had to do a D&D sign-off before, and I don't think I'll do one again. I really should have written an outro for this.